I still remember that day vividly, as if it were etched into my memory with a permanent marker. It was a Thursday afternoon, the kind of day where the sun filters through the blinds and casts soft patterns on the hardwood floor. I had just returned home from work, feeling the usual weariness settle into my bones. The house was quiet, a little too quiet for my liking. My wife, Sarah, was supposed to be home by now. I glanced at the clock, 4:30 p.m. She was late. As I walked through the living room, I noticed her purse on the couch, but there was no sign of her. I shrugged it off at first. Maybe she had stopped to run an errand or catch up with a friend. But as the minutes dragged on, an unsettling feeling began to gnaw at me. I sat down on the couch, absently flipping through the channels on the TV, but my mind was elsewhere. It wasn't until I heard the distinct sound of a text message notification that my heart began to race. The phone buzzed on the coffee table, and I glanced at it, half expecting it to be a message from Sarah. Instead, it was a message from an unknown number. I picked it up, my curiosity piqued. It read, "Can't wait to see you again, love. The flight was smooth, just like you." My heart dropped. I felt as though the air had been sucked out of the room. I knew in that moment that something was terribly wrong. I had no idea who this person was, but the term love hit me like a punch to the gut. The words felt like a betrayal, each letter a dagger piercing through the trust I thought we had built over the years. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a mistake, a wrong number, but deep down I knew better. My hands trembled as I opened her messages, scrolling through the exchanges. My stomach churned with each new revelation. There were flirty texts, intimate plans, and a slew of heart emojis. I felt my blood boil, rage bubbling up from the pit of my stomach. How could she do this to me, to us? I closed my eyes, trying to block out the images of her laughter, the way she would curl her hair behind her ear when she was excited, and the warmth of her embrace. Those memories clashed violently with the reality of what I was reading. It felt surreal, like a cruel joke played by fate. My mind raced back to the last time we were together, the way she smiled at me, the way she promised she'd always be there for me. It was all a lie. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I needed to confront her. I needed answers. I stood up, my heart pounding as I paced the room. The house felt like a prison, and I was the captive of my own despair. I walked to the bedroom, half expecting to find her there, but the bed was neatly made, untouched. I glanced at the clock again, 5:00 p.m. She should have been home by now. I grabbed my phone, my fingers shaking as I called her. The phone rang and rang, but she didn't pick up. My anxiety rose with each unanswered ring. I was left with my thoughts, a whirlwind of betrayal and heartbreak, and the knowledge that my entire world was about to shatter. When the front door finally swung open, I felt a rush of adrenaline. Sarah stepped inside, her cheeks flushed and her hair tousled. She looked surprised to see me, and for a fleeting moment I wanted to believe that everything was normal. But the weight of the truth hung heavily in the air between us. "Hey, you're home early," she said, her voice light, almost cheerful. I didn't respond. Instead, I stood there, feeling like a ghost haunting my own life. Her smile faded as she noticed the tension in my expression. I took a step closer, my heart racing, and uttered the words that would change everything. "We need to talk." The words hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy and foreboding. Sarah's smile faltered, and I could see the confusion flicker across her face. I wanted to scream, to let all the hurt and betrayal spill out of me, but a part of me hesitated. What if I was wrong? What if this was all just a misunderstanding? But deep down, I knew the truth. Her affair with that airline pilot was not just a fleeting moment. It was a betrayal that cut to the core of our relationship. As I stood there, watching her expression shift from confusion to concern, I was flooded with memories of happier times. I recalled our wedding day, how she looked in that white dress, radiant and beaming. We had danced under a canopy of twinkling lights, lost in each other's eyes, promising to love and cherish one another for all eternity. I remembered the late-night talks, the laughter we shared over silly jokes, and our dreams of a future together, children, a house, a life filled with love. But those memories felt like a distant echo now, overshadowed by the reality of what I had discovered. I thought about the countless evenings we had spent together, curled up on the couch, watching movies and sharing popcorn. I remembered the way she would lean her head on my shoulder, and I would run my fingers through her hair, feeling content and whole. In those moments, I never imagined that the woman I loved could betray me so profoundly. As the silence stretched between us, I felt anger rising within me, a simmering rage that threatened to boil over. How could she do this? How could she betray the trust we had built over years? I wanted to demand answers, to confront her with the evidence I had uncovered, but I felt a flicker of doubt. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe there was an explanation. Yet every time I tried to rationalize it, the sting of her words echoed in my mind. "Can't wait to see you again, love." "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. It was almost comical how she could still feign innocence. Did she really think I wouldn't notice the signs? Did she think I wouldn't feel the distance growing between us? I took a deep breath, trying to quell the storm of emotions raging inside me. "No, Sarah, everything is not okay. I found some messages on your phone." The words felt like lead weights, heavy and burdensome as they left my lips. Her expression shifted from concern to panic, and for a brief moment I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. "Messages? What messages?" she stammered, her voice trembling slightly. I could see her resolve starting to crack, the facade she had built slowly crumbling. I stepped closer, my heart racing as I prepared to lay it all out. "Messages from someone you're seeing, someone who isn't me." I watched as her face drained of color, the realization settling in. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. In that moment, I was flooded with a mix of anger and sorrow. I wanted to shake her, to make her understand the depth of my pain. How could she think she could hide something like this from me? The memories of our life together flashed before my eyes, and I felt like a fool for believing in her loyalty. I remembered how she used to talk about her dreams of travel, of adventures she wanted to share with me. But now I couldn't help but wonder if those dreams had been shared with him instead. The thought twisted my gut. I had always trusted her, always believed she was the one who would stand by my side no matter what. And now, here I was, standing in the ruins of our marriage, questioning everything. "Who is he?" I demanded, my voice low and steady, masking the turmoil churning inside me. "Who is this pilot?" Her eyes widened, and for a moment I thought she might deny it, but the truth was written all over her face. I can explain," she stuttered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Explain what, Sarah?" I shot back, my patience wearing thin. "How you fell in love with another man, how you betrayed me." Tears welled up in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy. But the anger surged back, overwhelming any remnants of compassion I might have had. I had loved her with everything I had, and now she had shattered that love into a million pieces. "Just tell me the truth," I said, my voice firm. "I deserve that much." As I awaited her answer, I felt the weight of betrayal settle deep within my chest, and I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. I stood there, heart racing, waiting for her to find the words that would either shatter my world even further or somehow start to mend it. Sarah's eyes darted around the room as if searching for an escape route, but there was none. She was cornered, and I was determined to hear the truth. "His name is Mark," she finally murmured, the name slipping from her lips like poison. "He's a pilot with the airline. We met at a bar a few months ago, and it just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I felt the ground beneath me shift as her words sank in. Mark. The name echoed in my mind, a reminder of the betrayal that had taken root in my life. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but instead I felt a chilling calm wash over me. "So, it's been going on for months?" I asked, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I was lonely," she admitted, her voice breaking. "You were always working late, and I felt neglected. I thought I could find comfort elsewhere, but I never wanted to hurt you." The air felt thick with tension, and I struggled to process her words. Loneliness. I had been working hard to provide for us, to build a life together. I had thought that was what she wanted. "You chose to cheat instead of talking to me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. "You chose to betray me." "No," she said, desperation creeping into her tone. "I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but it didn't mean anything. It was just physical. I love you, I swear. Love, the word hung in the air, tainted by the weight of her actions. How can you say that? How can you love me and sleep with someone else? I felt the anger bubbling up again, threatening to overflow. You don't get to use that word after what you've done. She took a step toward me, reaching out as if to comfort me, but I flinched away. I couldn't bear to feel her touch right now. Please, just listen to me, she pleaded. I made a mistake, but it's over. I ended it with him. I realized it was a mistake the moment I came home that night and saw you waiting for me. I shook my head, feeling the weight of her betrayal pressing down on me. How can I trust you again? You've broken my trust in the worst way possible. I'll do anything to make it right, she said, desperation flooding her voice. I'll prove to you that I can. Be the wife you deserve, just give me a chance. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but the pain was too fresh, too raw. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, teetering between the desire to forgive and the instinct to walk away. You've already made your choice, Sarah. You chose him over me. Her expression crumbled, and I could see the guilt etched into her features. No, I didn't choose him. I was lost, confused. I thought I could find something I was missing, but I see now that I was wrong. It was never about him, it was about us. The irony of her words stung. She had gone looking for something outside our marriage, and now she was trying to convince me that it was about us. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. You don't get to decide what was missing in our marriage when you were the one who chose to step outside of it, I said, my voice firm. We stood there in silence, the weight of our reality crashing down around us. I felt like I was in a fog, struggling to breathe, to see clearly. The woman I had loved, the partner I had trusted, was standing before me, a stranger now. I had to make a choice, and it felt monumental. Sarah, I said finally, my voice low, I need time to think. I can't just pretend this didn't happen. I need to know if I can ever trust you again. She nodded, her eyes pleading. I understand. Just know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. I don't want to lose you. I turned away from her, the pain of the situation weighing heavily on my shoulders. I walked to the window, staring out at the world outside, a world that seemed so normal and unaffected by the turmoil inside my home. I could see couples walking hand in hand, families enjoying their time together, and it felt like a cruel reminder of what I had lost. Do you love him? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her silence spoke volumes. I didn't need her to answer. The truth was already clear. I felt a sense of finality wash over me. I had to take control of the situation. I had to ensure that the affair was truly over, that Mark would never come between us again. I'll be staying with my brother for a while, I said, turning back to face her. I need space to think. I need to figure out what I want. Her face fell, and I could see the panic in her eyes. Please don't do this. We can work through this together. I shook my head, feeling a mix of sorrow and determination. No, you made your choice, and now it's my turn to make mine. I walked out of the room, leaving her standing there, a ghost of the woman I once knew. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a sense of resolution settle in. I would reclaim my life, and I would make sure that Mark would never take off with my wife again. The days that followed felt like a blur. I moved in with my brother, seeking refuge from the chaos that had consumed my life. The familiar walls of my childhood home provided a sense of comfort, but they also reminded me of everything I was leaving behind. I spent my nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with the whirlwind of emotions that churned inside me, anger, betrayal, and a profound sense of loss. I knew I had to take action. I couldn't let Sarah's infidelity go unchallenged. I needed to ensure that Mark, the airline pilot who had so callously inserted himself into our lives, would never have the chance to hurt me or my marriage again. It was time to play my hand, and I was determined to do it strategically. After a few days of contemplation, I decided to gather as much information as I could about Mark. I started by doing some research online, using social media and other platforms to piece together his life. I learned he was a few years younger than me, with a charming smile and a reputation for being a bit of a ladies' man. It was infuriating to think that someone like him could so easily sweep Sarah off her feet. I found his profile on LinkedIn and saw that he worked for a well-known airline. It was the perfect angle for my plan. I knew I had to confront him, but not before I had everything in place. I wanted to ensure that he understood the gravity of his actions. I wanted him to know that I would not let him walk away unscathed. Over the next few days, I devised a plan. I would attend one of the airline's public events, a meet and greet for pilots and their families. It would provide me with the perfect opportunity to confront Mark in a setting where I could expose him without raising suspicion. I wanted to catch him off guard, to make him feel the weight of my anger and betrayal. As the day of the event approached, I prepared myself mentally. I practiced what I would say, envisioning the confrontation play out in my mind. I knew I had to stay calm to maintain my composure, even as the fury bubbled beneath the surface. I couldn't let him see me sweat. I had to be the one in control. When the day finally arrived, I dressed sharply, wanting to present myself as someone who meant business. I arrived at the venue early, my heart racing with anticipation. The atmosphere was lively, filled with laughter and conversations. I scanned the room, looking for Mark among the crowd. It didn't take long before I spotted him, a tall figure in a crisp pilot uniform, surrounded by a group of admirers. He was charming them with his stories, flashing that disarming smile that had undoubtedly won over my wife. As I approached, I felt a surge of adrenaline. I was ready to confront him, to lay bare the truth of his actions. I made my way through the crowd, my focus locked on him. The closer I got, the more my heart pounded. I could feel the tension building, and I knew that this moment would define everything. "Mark," I called out, my voice cutting through the chatter. The crowd fell silent, all eyes turning to me. His expression shifted from surprise to confusion as he turned to face me. "Can I help you?" he asked, feigning innocence. I stepped closer, the crowd parting around us. "Oh, I think you can. We need to talk." His smile faltered, and I could see the realization dawning on him. "About what?" "About my wife," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. "I know about your little affair. I know what you've done." The tension in the room escalated, and I could feel the weight of the audience's gaze on us. Mark's expression shifted to one of defensiveness. "This is not the place for this," he said, trying to downplay the situation. "No, this is exactly the place," I retorted. "You think you can just waltz into my life and take what's mine? You think you can have a fling with my wife and walk away unscathed?" Gasps rippled through the crowd, and I could see the shock on their faces. Mark's bravado began to crumble. "Listen, it was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go this far," he stammered, his confident demeanor faltering. "A mistake?" I scoffed, my anger boiling over. "You think it's a mistake to sleep with another man's wife? You think it's a mistake to betray someone's trust? You need to understand that this isn't just some casual fling. You've hurt me, and you've hurt my marriage." Mark looked around, realizing the attention we were drawing. "Let's take this somewhere private," he suggested, but I wasn't having it. "No, you need to hear this now in front of everyone. You're not going to get away with this. I'm not going to let you sweep it under the rug." He opened his mouth to respond, but I cut him off. "You need to understand that I'm not going to stand by and let you destroy my life. I will make sure that your little affair with my wife is known. I'll ensure that your reputation is tarnished, that you face the consequences of your actions." The crowd murmured, the atmosphere thick with tension. Mark's bravado had evaporated, replaced by a look of fear. "You wouldn't do that," he said, his voice shaky. "Oh, I absolutely would," I replied, my voice cold and unyielding. "You think you can play with people's lives and not face the repercussions? I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done." I could see the realization sink in, the weight of my words hitting him hard. I had taken control of the narrative, and for the first time since I discovered the affair, I felt a sense of power. I had grounded their relationship permanently, and I wasn't going to let anyone take flight with my life again. As I turned to leave, I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. I had confronted the man who had betrayed me, but the damage had already been done. I still had to face Sarah, and I knew that our journey was far from over. I had taken the first step in reclaiming my life, but the road ahead would be long and uncertain. The confrontation with Mark left me with a mix of emotions: relief, anger, and a profound sense of emptiness. I had taken action, and for the first time since discovering Sarah's infidelity, I felt a semblance of control. But as I drove back to my brother's house, the weight of what had happened settled heavily on my chest. I knew I had to face Sarah. I had made my point with Mark, but the real battle lay ahead. The thought of seeing her again filled me with dread. Would she understand the depths of my pain? Would she be remorseful, or would she attempt to defend her actions? When I walked into my brother's living room, he could see the turmoil etched on my face. "You okay?" he asked, concern lacing his voice. I shook my head, feeling the exhaustion wash over me. "No, not really." I confronted Mark. It didn't go how I expected, but I think I made my point. He nodded, understanding the weight of the situation. "You did what you had to do. Now it's time to figure out what you want moving forward." I spent the rest of the evening packing, unable to shake the anxiety that gripped me. I finally decided to text Sarah, asking her to meet me at a nearby cafe. I needed to see her face to face to gauge her reaction after what had transpired. When I arrived at the cafe, my heart raced as I waited for her to arrive. I watched as couples chatted and laughed, their joy a stark contrast to the turmoil in my own life. I felt like an outsider, a ghost haunting a world that continued to spin without me. Finally, Sarah walked in and my breath caught in my throat. She looked different, her eyes were red, and there was a heaviness in her demeanor. She spotted me and made her way over, her expression a mix of apprehension and hope. "Thank you for meeting me," she said softly, taking a seat across from me. Her voice trembled slightly. I could see the uncertainty in her eyes. "I wanted to talk," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "I think we need to be honest with each other about what happened." She nodded, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "I know I hurt you and I'm so sorry. I never wanted to betray you. I was foolish and I let my loneliness get the best of me." I studied her, searching for sincerity in her words. "You say you're sorry, but how can I trust you again? You've shattered everything we built together." "I understand," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just want the chance to prove that I can be better, that I can be the wife you deserve." Her vulnerability tugged at my heart, but I couldn't ignore the pain that still lingered. "You don't get to decide what I deserve after what you did. You chose to betray me, and that choice has consequences." "I know," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm willing to face those consequences. I'll do whatever it takes to win back your trust." I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of her words. "What does that even mean, Sarah? You think it's enough to say you're sorry? You think I can just forget everything and move on?" "No, I don't expect that," she said earnestly. "But I want to show you that I can change. I've started seeing a therapist to work through my issues. I want to understand why I did this and how I can fix it." I raised an eyebrow, surprised by her admission. "You're serious about this? You're really going to therapy?" "I am," she replied, her voice steady. "I want to figure out what went wrong in our marriage and how I can fix it. I don't want to lose you." Her determination was admirable, but I was still skeptical. "It's going to take more than therapy, Sarah. It's going to take time, and I don't know if I can trust you again." "I understand," she said, her eyes pleading. "I'll be patient. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I can be the woman you fell in love with." I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me, anger, hurt, and a flicker of hope. "You need to understand that this isn't just about you anymore. You've hurt me deeply, and it's going to take time for me to heal." "I know," she said softly, "and I'll be here waiting for you. I'll respect whatever time you need." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our conversation hanging heavy in the air. I could see the genuine remorse in her eyes, but I also felt the deep-seated pain of betrayal. "Where do we go from here?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I think we take it one step at a time," she replied. "We start by being honest with each other and we work on rebuilding trust. I'll show you through my actions that I'm committed to making this right." I nodded slowly, feeling the tension in my shoulders ease slightly. "I'll think about it, but know that it's going to take more than just words. It's going to take time and effort from both of us." "Whatever it takes," she promised, her voice steady. As we finished our conversation, I felt a small flicker of hope ignite within me. It was a fragile hope, one that was still tempered by the pain of betrayal, but it was there nonetheless. I knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but I also knew that if we were both willing to put in the effort, there might still be a chance to salvage what we had lost. As I left the cafe that day, I felt a strange sense of resolve. I was still heartbroken, still angry, but I was also determined to reclaim my life. I knew that the journey to healing would be difficult, but I was ready to take the first step. In the weeks that followed, I found myself navigating a complex emotional landscape. The road to healing was not linear. It was riddled with moments of doubt, anger, and unexpected clarity. I had moved back in with Sarah, but the atmosphere was charged with tension. Each day felt like a delicate balancing act, as we both tiptoed around the debris of our shattered trust. I watched her closely, observing her efforts to rebuild our relationship. She attended therapy regularly, and I could see the changes in her. She was more introspective, more willing to communicate openly about her feelings. But the memories of her betrayal still haunted me, lurking in the corners of my mind. I often found myself questioning whether her efforts were genuine or simply a means to assuage her guilt. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, I found myself sitting on the couch, lost in thought. Sarah joined me, her eyes searching mine for a sign of what I was feeling. "How are you doing?" she asked gently, her voice filled with concern. "Honestly, I'm struggling," I admitted, the weight of my emotions spilling out. "Some days it feels like I'm moving forward, and other days it feels like I'm stuck in the past." She nodded, her expression somber. "I understand. I know I've hurt you deeply, and I can't expect you to just forget it, but I want to be here for you to help you through this." I appreciated her sincerity, but I also knew that healing was a personal journey. "I need time, Sarah. I need to process everything and figure out what I truly want." "I'm willing to wait," she replied, her voice steady. "I'll be here no matter how long it takes." Her patience was commendable, but I couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty. I was torn between the love I had for her and the pain she had caused me. I knew I needed to reclaim my own identity in this process. I began focusing on myself, picking up hobbies I had neglected, spending time with friends, and even seeking therapy myself. I needed to understand my own feelings, to work through the hurt and betrayal that had taken root in my heart. As I began to heal, I also started to see Sarah in a different light. She was genuinely trying to make amends, and I could see the effort she was putting into rebuilding our relationship. We began to have more open conversations about our needs, our fears, and our aspirations. Slowly, we started to reconnect, piece by piece. One night, as we sat together on the couch, I turned to her and said, "I want to try. I want to see if we can rebuild what we had." Her eyes lit up and she reached for my hand. "Really, you mean it?" "I do," I replied, feeling a mixture of hope and apprehension. "But it's going to take time. We need to be patient with each other." "I'm ready," she said, squeezing my hand. "I'll do whatever it takes." And so we began the slow process of rebuilding our marriage. It was not easy. There were days filled with tears and anger, moments where the past threatened to overshadow our present. But there were also moments of laughter, joy, and connection that reminded us of why we had fallen in love in the first place. Through it all, I learned that love is not just about the good times. It's also about navigating the storms together. It's about forgiveness, understanding, and the willingness to work through the messiness of life. As time passed, I found myself reflecting on the journey I had taken. I had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and uncertainty, but I had also discovered my own strength. I had learned that I could reclaim my life, that I could stand up for myself and demand the respect I deserved. In the end, our relationship was forever changed, but it was also renewed. We had grounded the turbulence that had threatened to tear us apart, and we were building a new foundation, one rooted in honesty, communication, and a shared commitment to growth. As I looked at Sarah, I saw not just the woman who had hurt me, but also the partner who was willing to fight for us. I realized that while the past could not be changed, the future was still unwritten, and I was ready to embrace it together. "Here, to new beginnings," I said, raising an imaginary glass in a toast. "Here to us," she replied, her smile lighting up the room. And for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We were on a new path, one that held promise, and I was ready to take the journey with her.